Alright, you guys, well, here's the dream. Alright. Um, it was martial law. I was waiting for a dentist appointment, I believe. Well, there was a man who really hated me and others. An old friend I kinda know she was eventually getting dealt with, not in a good way, I think, or about to. I had seen a man or someone on that FEMA bus turn around, I believe, and seemed as though they stood up, but not quite sure, and I knew they were so frightened, I think. In that dream, I believe I was on that bus to see stuff. I can't quite be so sure about that. So, a man, the same one, I think, he really hated me and people. He was letting me know stuff, but I can't quite remember. This guy seemed as though he would maybe torture me and others. I don't know. It was the most frightening thing ever. I was eventually not on this bus because I had at least, I think, a 2-hour wait for a dentist appointment, I think. So I can't quite remember. I was so frightened to go and be tortured. I had thought in the dream about a torture from my old friend where in hell how they torture you from having sex, and I learned actually what that torture is in hell. Not being in hell, but learn from a video what they do to people who have sex, what their tortures in hell would be if they were to go there, be tortured for that. And it's not pretty. I can share with you guys what it is if you want me to. Just let me know. Also, I was thinking about Jesus' return, I believe. That I'd maybe escape in time, I think. Not too sure, but waiting to see what happens. I want to stop right there for just a minute at least. You guys, this was the most excruciatingly painful wait to find out if I was going to be tortured or not. It was just a dream, but could you imagine how the ones who will really feel? It's like this. You're up there waiting to know, what's going to happen to you, and you don't want to find out what's going to happen to you because you're afraid to ask anybody what your torture is going to be. You don't want to know what your torture is going to be because then you go thinking about it and be like, this is horrible. Jesus, I'm sure he felt so horrible when he knew what exactly he was going to go through was painful enough, and knowing he was willing to do it, it's just bad. It was the most frightening thing I'd ever experienced. There was a dream I had when I was younger about a guy pointing a gun at me, I believe. And it was at the exact same place I was when I was younger. I was probably like, what, 10, 11, 12, 13, I don't know. Doesn't matter. The thing is that, as frightening as it was when I was so young, having a dream of a man pointing a gun at me at the exact same room that I was in real life. I also had a dream that I was in that exact same room with a man and my door open pointing a gun at me, and I wake up and he's not really there. But the only difference was that he just wasn't there. It was the exact same room, the exact same place. I was in that exact same bed. The only difference was he wasn't there. This dream was more frightening than that for me as being a child at that time. This dream was much more frightening than that as being a child. So you have to rate the difference and how much more frightening was this versus that as a child. Okay, you getting a gun pointed at you versus a child getting a gun pointed at them. How much more frightened do you think they will be than you would? Okay, so me as a child, as frightened as I was, versus now, this is much more frightening than that. So that says a lot in of itself. Okay, let's go on. There's some stuff I also wrote down. And this is a text that I sent my girlfriend, so I just wanted to share it with you guys too. I had a dream, this is the same one, okay? But I wanted to tell you that this is, I had a martial law dream before, I believe. It was where they were taking me away, I think I've shared this with you guys. So that's why I want you guys to check out my dreams and visions. I want you guys to check this out. It was where they took me away, and I escaped. I was still probably in the same room when they were trying to take me away with other people in there. I was hiding and whatnot, and they had come found me, and I don't know. I think they took me with them. So I had understood in the dream, and this is way in the past, that I guess they were being tortured. People were, and I don't know. I don't know what that all had to do with why they found me. But this is a different one, and this one was way more awful than that one. Okay, so remember, when I say that I had a god-awful dream, this is the dream of the one I recently just had, not the one from way back then. Okay, this is the same dream I'm talking about today. So when I talk about having a god-awful dream, this is the same dream I'm talking about as the dream that I wanted to tell you guys about, that I just told you about. Now I just want to explain it in a different detail way to maybe it can wake you guys up or shake you to the core. Alright, so I had a dream so god-awful that it literally made me want to give up movies and whatnot. God gave me a dream to warn me that this will happen to me if I don't get it together. He ain't playing with me, nor does he got favorites. I was so frightened that it seemed so real. I literally thought it was gonna happen. It was so cruel and evil. Thank God it was just a dream, because had it been real, it'd be the most frightening thing of my life. People are in for a cruel, rude awakening. What I saw and witnessed with my own eyes, many won't be able to bear the feeling as easily as they may think. So many are about to experience the horror of a lifetime, and there's no turning back once it happens. I watched probably the most frightening time in history, or at least one of them, if not the worst yet to come. I'm not trying to terrify you, I'm just sharing some of what I experienced. It was too real to know that it was just a dream. I pray that I am not here when this all goes down. Neither do I want you or anyone I love to be here, but I can't control what you or anyone else does. That was one of them. Now remember, these are just texts I sent my girlfriend, so I'm not saying like you don't know the half of it, because I already shared the dream, so you already know more than half if you've seen this, or if you've seen the video that I have right now. Says, you have no idea, I haven't even told you the half of it, I just gave you the introductory. What this dream did to me, it'll be way more frightening for the one left behind than the way I felt in that dream. It seriously did a number on me. Not knowing what I was gonna go through. I didn't put the word go, but I was gonna go through, fearing to ask what I would face, because of not wanting to think of the torment that I'd have to endure was frightening enough. I was too afraid to ask what they would do to me, just as Jesus knew the pain he would suffer and how it would be. Just before he had to endure it, he knew how painful it would be, but was willing to endure it for us. But when it's our turn to take the stand and have to go endure great suffering, we see things in a whole different light. I've had a FEMA dream before, but this one was taken to a whole other level. This was no game. They meant business, and when I say they meant business, they weren't gonna give one bit care of mercy to anyone. They hated you. They wanted to torture you. This is just a sample of what's to come. Question is, where will you be on that day? Another one was, just be sure you're ready on that day, because if not, you ain't going. I love you all enough to share this dream that God gave me to warn ahead of time. Had I not heeded to this warning, God only knows, which I didn't I had, but then I did some stuff that I shouldn't have done afterward, and now, after that, I ain't going back to what I was doing. Had I heeded to this warning, God only knows. Thankfully I did, now, at that time. Now I ask the same for you. Heed to this before it gets worse, before you get left here to experience the unbearable suffering in the 7-year Great Tribulation, where they will have no mercy upon you, none whatsoever. So for your sake, get ready or be left behind. That's all I can say. I can show you how to be ready. The question is, are you willing to participate in listening to the truth, or rather avoid and ignore as usual, just to find out later on that you were wrong all along and now have to endure something so unbearable? Was it worth it? So now ask yourself, where will I be on that day when Jesus returns? Will I be here to suffer unbearable pain, or will I get to partake at the marriage supper of the Lamb up in heaven when Jesus comes to rapture his bride? I wrote that his bride is only those who are ready, not the whole church. What's your decision? Make it fast. The reason I put that is not his whole church is because if it was his whole church and he's taking his bride and some of his church is left behind, how can it be his whole church? I wrote also, in order for that to happen, you have to be ready. His word warns us plenty of times. It goes through Matthew, through Luke, and his word tells us how to be ready. It warns us that if we know to be ready but are not, then we will receive many blows, meaning much punishment. The word tells us enough on needing to be ready for his return and doesn't just stop there and leave us hanging. It further on tells us how to be ready. So do you dare ask yourself, are you willing to take the steps or faith or find out the hard way, being left here only to face unbearable pain? I also wrote, being a Christian doesn't make us qualified. We must spiritually prepare for this event in order to be ready. If you so as much think that you're going to be taken just because you're his child and you were warned to be ready and you chose to do nothing about it, then his word warns that the servant would be assigned with hypocrites, weeping and gnashing of teeth. They will wish they got ready. They will receive many blows, much punishment. God has called me to be a prophet, an evangelist, a teacher, and a preacher. I preach, I evangelize, I teach, I prophesy of things to come. I edify, I correct, not of my power, but rather of the power of God. It is his will that none be left, but that all be taken. Not at all, meaning not that his will, that any be left. Most, in fact, will be here to suffer unbearable pain. Even most Christians will be greatly and sadly mistaken and have no choice but to be here on that day. For many will not be ready when he returns. Most Christians will be disqualified and have to endure great suffering. Many aren't willing to hear the truth. Many can't handle the truth. God is the bearer of bad news. Okay. I didn't send this to her, but I'll try to read it as quick as I can. I don't care to get involved in the cavity of sin. Sin is just a disease waiting to carry us down to hell. They've turned church into a circus, a theme park, a parade, a zoo, and a party. Their wicked music is disguised as an angel of light. We compromise with sin. We gamble our lives and our lot in heaven. Does not his word say that we should not let anyone take our crown? What do we do? What do you think Satan's trying to do? If he knows we can lose our salvation, then won't he try to hide the truth from us as long as possible and keep us comforted with lies till the day we give an account to God of our life on earth, only to find out that we were terribly and horribly mistaken and greatly deceived by the enemy, our adversary, the devil? Does he not accuse the brethren whom speak truth and warn even those when others agree not? Has not Satan made a mockery out of the church, and has not Satan made a fool out of the church? Who then is willing to admit they've been wrong all along before they are left here to suffer while me and others are enjoying our time in heaven at the marriage of the supper? You guys, please take this all to God.